Welcome one, welcome all. This is the second episode of the Vast Podcast. I am still Parker Bodenhazen, as I was last time. I'm here with Miles Murphy this time, the prodigy of Evan Murphy.
Hello.
How are you doing today, Miles?
Good.
Awesome, good to hear. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about your camera history, what you've done, what you do?
I've been into filmmaking for like 10 years about, and recently I've been working on a lot of projects, like a music video for the band AJR, videos for X-Cycle and other companies like that.
Awesome. So how'd you get into video making?
I saw it on YouTube and I thought it was really cool. So
Anybody specific?
Film Riot, Indie Mogul, people like that.
Indie Mogul's a classic. We actually have a bit of a video from him later. We'll come over that. So today we want to talk about sort of building a kit, especially for starters. So what's really good equipment, what's really cheap equipment, and you know what the best choice would be.
Yeah.
So if you're starting out, obviously you want to start with the cheaper equipment. But if you're getting more experience and you just don't know where to go, you can go up in the ranks. So I think starting at Origins is a pretty good place. What camera did you start with? Like, where did you start?
I started with like an Aptec camcorder. And then my first DSLR was a Canon T3, and I've been using that for 7 years.
Really?
Yeah.
So are you still on the T3? Or?
Yes, I still am. I dropped it in the ocean one time. It's pretty broken, but I still use it.
Is that the one Evan was telling us about yesterday?
Yes.
Or last week?
Yeah.
Yesterday?
Yes, that's the one.
Oh, wow. That's spectacular.
Yeah.
And so we thought we could make it by before the water came back again.
Oh no,
and
I can
so
already see where this is going.
we're like sprinting, and I have his camera, and then it just comes, and it's like boom, and I tried to hold it up, and no, it went in the water.
I started with a bunch of flip minnow cameras.
Oh yes.
Which I also talked about breaking. And I currently work with a T3i, so that means I'm cooler than you.
Yes. You
So
are.
as far as camera goes, cheap options. What would you say would be a really good cheap option?
I'd say the Canon Rebel series, like the T5i. Those are pretty cheap. It's like $400, which is not bad at all.
No, yeah, especially for a brand new DSLR.
Yeah. And there's also like the Sony A6000. It's another good, shoots 4K, shoots 1080 at 120.
Okay.
So those are also good options as well.
What's that? What's the camera that has really, really good low light?
The
forget that.
A7S II.
A7S2.
Yeah.
That one's not necessarily a cheap camera, but it is a really good one.
Yeah.
And
like,
sort of building off of that, really expensive cameras that are also really good. The A7S2, that one.
Yeah, the A7R2 or the Panasonic GH5. Those are also
The
pretty
GH5
good.
is really good.
Yeah, that's the one I'm saving up for.
Yeah. I think we're going into like real professional. You've got the Sony FS7. It's a little bit of an older camera, but it's still really, really solid 4K. And it's got built-in filters too. I really like that.
That's cool.
Obviously, to go on cameras, we need lenses. So, as far as lenses, what would you recommend?
I'd recommend for your first lenses to get a good or like a decent zoom lens and a prime. Like I still have the 18 to 55 and the Nifty 50, 51.8.
The Nifty 50.
Nifty 50.
So, any reason you give it that name? Nifty 50?
That's the name I've always heard of, Nifty 50. It's $100, 50 millimeter. It's a low aperture, good low light. So
Pretty good.
Yeah.
So on the higher range, what would you recommend?
There's some L series lenses for around like $600 or $700.
And so what does L series mean?
L series, it's a different type of glass that's used in the lens rather than their like STM or standard EFS lenses. And then there's also cinema lenses, which those can run for like $1,000 to $1,200. Those are a little bit more expensive, but it's also very nice.
Even that's like the lower end. You can get up to $15,000 lenses.
Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous.
I'm having second thoughts about buying a $400 camera. A lot of times you can actually DIY lenses. You can DIY filters. You can DIY lenses themselves.
Yeah.
I know you were telling me about you DIY'd an anamorphic lens.
Yeah,
What did you do for that?
So anamorphic is it's a different ratio. There's like 60 by 9, 4 by 3, and there's anamorphic, which basically stretches your bokeh, stretches it vertically, so it's more of an oval, and then for your lens flares, it gives it horizontal streaks. So it looks a lot more cinematic. A lot of higher productions are shot on anamorphic, but anamorphic lenses are pretty expensive. It's like minimum $2,500. So there are filters that you can get for $100, or I made one. I took cardboard.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
boy.
you basically you cut a teardrop shape. You put fishing line down it, and you literally put that on top of your lens so that the teardrop it's going vertically, and you shoot with that. It's basically like a bokeh filter. It just mocks the bokeh of anamorphic and the lens flares, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, you can do that for free, basically, if you have fishing line.
Right, and cardboard.
Yeah.
Which I think everybody has some cardboard laying around. Not
Yeah.
sure about the
Fishing
line.
line's not expensive though, so.
As far as tripods, some cheap options. I've always liked the Amazon Basics one. Like,
Yeah.
I think that was my first tripod ever. It was $13.
Yeah.
Well worth it. It broke.
It broke.
Yeah. I mean,
That's expected, I guess.
It's a cheap little
$13.
$13 tripod.
Yeah. Yeah, there's also cheap fluid head tripods that you can get
Right.
as well, like $70, $80.
Right. The Magnus VT 300. Had to look at my notes there. The Magnus VT 300. We actually have a bunch in the West Tech video production. They're pretty solid. They're like
Yeah.
they're if you're a starter, if you're a brand new cinematographer and you just want a fluid head, it's pretty solid. It's only
Yeah.
$80. And then like step up from there, the Magnus VT 2000. That one's pretty solid too. It's actually what we're using to film today.
Yes.
Another really solid camera. It's like a baby Manfrotto.
Yeah. Manfrotto are probably the higher end. You can get
Right.
different heads for different legs and stuff like that. So
Right.
I think that's
and
cool.
They're kind of known for being the best tripod
Yeah.
maker.
Yeah.
At least consumer grade. As far as DIY options, I actually made a lot of DIY tripods just because I was too cheap to buy my own. I'd be gifted a flip camera and I didn't want to go buy a tripod, so
Yeah.
I think one of my favorites was so if you find a 1/4" bolt, which is like 60 cents at Home Depot, you can anywhere you can put a 1/4" bolt, you can put a camera.
Yeah.
So I remember I put it through the cap of a water bottle, put a nut on it, and then screwed it to the camera onto the 1/4" bolt, and filled the water bottle with rocks. So anywhere I put the water bottle, the camera would be right there. So it was a very impromptu.
It's not. That's nice.
Also, just setting your camera on a table, like getting
Yeah.
a stool or something and setting your camar there, it's
Yeah.
always pretty good.
Or you could just spend $13 on a cheap tripod as well.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah.
13-year-old Parker wasn't so good with that. I think you mentioned you built a few sliders and cranes.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and
Yeah.
talk about those?
Yeah, a few years ago, I didn't want to spend a lot of money, so I made my own slider. I took PVC pipe. I think I had 1/2" PVC and then 3/4" what are they called? Like T connectors, and you put them together, and it's 3/4 and a 1/2", so it slides. It's not very well, but it slides. And then I put it into a deep handy box. Sorry, you get a deep handy box, which is kind of like it's for electric circuits, but there's 2 1/2" holes in it, so you can put the slider that you made into it, and it doesn't work very well, but yeah.
So how long did you use that?
I used it for like a year until I just bought a cheap one for like $90.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So I keep thinking back to this idea of cheap. We keep saying cheap equipment, but then we keep saying like $80, $90.
Yeah.
$120 is a cheap tripod.
Yeah.
What a lot of people don't realize, especially when they're just getting into camera, is that camera equipment is very expensive. So getting a $150 50mm lens, that's cheap. That's
Yeah.
real cheap.
Yeah.
As far as cranes go, I know I haven't worked much with cranes. We have a crane here that I occasionally enjoy using. What's your experience with cranes?
I don't know. I've never bought a crane, but when I was younger, I built one.
Really?
When I was like
work?
13. It actually works pretty well. I started off with my tripod. I got like a 90-degree like metal angle. I would just drill a 1/4" hole into it so that I could put the tripod plate onto it. And then from there, I took 2 other 1/4" holes on the other side. So like if my tripod head is here, it's like this. And I put two 2x4s, Then on this end, you just add like I put like another just piece of wood and then drilled the rest of it. The camera would sit on there. And you have two 2x4s, and it's going into one plate. So when it goes down, the camera stays level.
That's pretty
So
cool.
it works all right.
Fair enough. Do you still have that? Do you still use
I
it?
still have it. I don't use it that much.
Fair enough.
but-
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So what would you use it for? What instances would you use that for?
Well, I'd use it for like establishing shots. You could do like nice slow motions, like up to down or down to up. You could track like a car. You start from up high and go down low as it's passing by, stuff like that.
Okay, awesome. As far as camera stabilizer, I know a lot of people don't really like to use the tripod. They like to
Yeah.
go out handheld, but obviously handheld camera shots don't look good. What would you recommend as far as stabilizers? Starting cheap and heading expensive.
Cheap, I'd say the Flycam Nano. It's like $80, which is probably one of the cheapest ones you could find. There's also DIYs that you could do for like $20 as well.
Right.
Basically, anything that gets your hands off the camera
Right.
will help stabilize your shot.
I think one of the first ones that I used was just a cheap $20 like camera, $30 camera handle grip.
Yeah.
It was like it tried to mimic the effects of a glide cam, but it was called a steady cam. So it was like you had a handle here and it was hooked, and the weights were down here, and it really didn't work that well, and it was just a waste of money.
How much was it?
$30.
30.
Like it sort of works, but not as well as like I was expecting glide cam.
Yeah.
And I bought Steadicam. So if you're going to buy cheap, expect cheap.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do something like a fig rig, that one's basically it's like a big steering wheel and your camera like sits in the middle.
Yeah.
Those things are great, but you're still gonna have shakiness because it's not a weighted system. It's not like a gimbal.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be like.
There's no balance either. It's just
There's no balance.
It's just really getting your hands away from the camera.
It'll help, but it's not going to be perfect. So
Yeah.
again, the more expensive you go, the better it's going to be. So like heading into more expensive ones, he mentioned the glide or the Steadicam, monocam, whatever it's called,
Oh, the Flycam?
Flycam.
Yes.
There it is. That one's sort of a knockoff of the glide cam.
Yeah,
The HD 2000, which will fit most any smaller form factor cameras. That'll run you for about $500, but that one's pretty much industry standard for consumers.
Yeah.
Everybody uses it. It's a pretty good, solid little device.
Yeah.
Building up from there, one of my favorite cheap camera gimbals would be the DS1. That one's pretty
DS1.
solid.
Yeah. Everything's 3-axis now.
Right.
Everyone's getting the 3-axis stabilizers.
Right. And as time goes on, they keep getting cheaper and cheaper.
Yeah.
DJI also makes quite solid gimbals. I think they just released they're about to release their Ronin 3.
The
Ronin 2.
Ronin 2, yeah.
Ronin 2. Which should make their original Ronin go down in price. Right now it's about $1,000. It's a pretty solid consumer gimbal.
Yeah, you can get a student discount, which makes it $900 as well.
Yeah, so if you're a student,
$100 off.
100 off right there.
Yeah.
And then obviously the fig rig as well, which we mentioned. You don't have to buy the big wheel fig rig. You can actually make your own. You can take PVC and four right brackets, and do PVC, right bracket, PVC, right bracket, PVC, T bracket in the middle, PVC, right bracket, PVC, and then on that T put a PVC pipe going up into the middle, put a 1/4 inch bolt, and put your camera on that.
Yeah.
I think you can make it for about $10.
Yeah.
It's really cheap. PVC pipe is really cheap, and you can do a lot. I actually made a lighting stand at my freshman year using PVC pipe.
Really?
And my dad had these fish tank LEDs, and we decided to make a PVC like pipe holder for them, and it was great. I actually probably have a picture somewhere of me holding the lights above my camera before I had the light fixture, and I was like, I need to build something for this.
Yeah.
So PVC is one of your best friends when it comes to filmmaking as well, especially DIY filmmaking.
Yeah.
And building off of that, lights. a great DIY. Not only like you don't have to do like fish tank LEDs. Home Depot.
Yes, Home Depot has a lot. Has clamp lights, work lights.
Right.
Clamp lights are like $7 each. Work lights are maybe 15 or 20.
You can never have too many clamp lights, and they're really, really cheap, really good DIY.
And in some cases, it's better than a big studio light. It's so small, and you can
put it.
You can put it anywhere.
And that's the other thing. You can put whatever with a big studio light. Oftentimes, it's just like throw in a halogen bulb, and you get what you pay for. It's just that orange color. With these lights, you can put LED lights. You can put tungsten lights.
Yeah.
You can put whatever, and you can have them be different colors as well. If you're trying to go into a little bit more professional, Amazon sells really, really solid kits. Like they're really cheap, and you can tell they're really cheap. But they're like softbox kits. You can get them for like $150. 3-point lighting. Usually they have a crane for the lights. So you can do a hair light. Really good. In fact, it's what we use in our studio. We use mostly the Amazon kit lights. The only ones that we don't have are just a couple LED panels up above. And then getting into the most expensive ones, which are consumer grade, obviously. If you're going for professional, you can look into RE, and we're not going to talk about RE lights. Those are
RE lights or cameras. None of those.
Those are so expensive. We won't bore you with those. One of the most expensive ones that we have are the Lowell Rifa EX, and they're great softbox. They're super bright. They get the job done. But the smallest one, which I think is 2 feet by 2 feet, will run you about $350. The one we have, which is about 3 feet by 3 feet, that'll run you about $600. But again, they're really solid lights. So the more expensive you go, the higher quality it's going to be.
Yeah, I got a 3-point lighting kit for $160 on Amazon.
Well, Miles, that's about all we have to talk about today. I think we covered some really good, cheap equipment. I think it was pretty solid. Thank you for coming on.
Yes, thanks for having me.
That was your mom's job.
All right.
Overused joke.